Welcome back, troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. We're gonna hunt for some Gibson guitars tonight, but Reverb has listened to your guys' comments about their new layout. I've had a lot of people ask me, hey, why does mine not look any different? It appears that this is rolling out to some people quicker than others. It might have to do with how up-to-date your browser is. There's a bunch of different things, but eventually everybody will be switched over to this style. But they have brought back the listing time, which is a huge thing. Thank you, Reverb, for listening to us. But it's actually a little bit tricky to find. So I was kind of hoping it would be up here, kind of where it used to be. But they've hidden it within product specs. So you click on it and it shows you listed 8 hours ago. So it's not the most visible location, but you can find it. So I think it's kind of a win-win compromise here. So I'll take it. As long as I can find out how long something has been listed for, I'm all right with that. The only other things that I think need to be worked on is they need to put how many offers have been on it. Even if they want to hide it down here, I'm okay with that. And they got to work on this lag. Some days it's better than others, and it's not just my internet connection. But let's start hunting. I actually have a pretty good selection up here of stuff I already want to talk about. But let's just see if there's anything listed between now and then. I actually had, Strawberry Milk M2. So we reviewed the Firebird Zero, which a lot of people hated that guitar, but honestly, if you looked at it as like a weird single coil type like guitar, it wasn't too bad. There was some underlying flaws within it, sure, but I think it'd be fun to check one of these out one day. I'm not quite willing to even pay that much for one of these though. That's not a bad price on a 77 custom. And finding clean ones has been difficult. Uh-oh, someone got their foot in the shot. I know there's quite a few forums where they poke fun at people for doing stuff like that. Okay, so that one it had different tuners on it at one point in time. Looks like maybe a headstock repair. Man, that looks earlier than what he's describing it. I can't quite see the serial number. But that's more of an early 70s Les Paul custom truss rod cover. And that would make more sense why it has that, because that'd be the original waffle backs. Hold on a second. Yeah, so that guy has that labeled wrong. That's not a 77. That's like I would guess, somewhere around 73 to 75. Judging based on his new seller status and the fact that he doesn't have a big listing, I'm betting he probably bought this in 1977 and that's why he thinks it's that. But the fact that he's not talking about this kind of shies me away from that listing. Early 70s ones are more valuable because they have a mahogany neck. It's just more of a 50 spec. There's nothing wrong with the maple neck ones. I actually really like those guitars. But at 33 with all those variables, I'll pass on that. And now this one. This is what I actually wanted to take a look at. Somebody just sent this to me right before I started recording. So this is a 1982 Les Paul Custom, but do you notice something strange? Like, if somebody sent me this photo and said, hey, what is this? I'd probably tell you, oh, that's probably late 80s, early 90s, because that's kind of what those things look like. But they're claiming this is an 82. I mean, we can see that the knobs have been changed. You've got Dunlop strap lock buttons. Not a big deal. Honestly, I'm kind of suspicious of those pickups. They look like they're a slightly different hue from everything else. But dang, this one just looks like a 90s Les Paul Custom. I'm shocked that it's not. It's got a sweet one-piece mahogany back, and then the serial number. You gotta remember, most customs in this era are 3-piece tops, so finding one that's a 2-piece and flamed usually means it's Kalamazoo made. You can find that out with the last 3 digits of the serial number being 499 or less. In this case, it looks like it says 352, so yeah, it does check out for that. Stock Grover tuners is a little bit suspicious. You don't see that too often in this era. But something that kind of makes me go, huh, is the Made in USA stamp is actually the wrong direction. Usually they're vertical on these Kalamazoo made ones, but I have seen anomalies like this. But the fact that this doesn't have a custom shop edition or a custom shop original decal means it's probably not a custom ordered one-off. 1982 is actually the transition year back to mahogany necks from maple, as well as the volutes disappearing, but I'm 100% confident that the sellers just misread this serial number, and instead of a leading 8, it's a 9. I'm so confident, in fact, I'm gonna buy this guitar just to prove it to you guys. The $3,000 question. Gibson SB-300. So this is a little known bass, kind of similar to that like SG-1 100. It's just basically a bass version of that. I don't think I've ever seen one of these in person. I'm not a big fan of the guitar, but there's something about this that's just kind of calling me. It's unique. Let's look this up real quick. So it looks like it's the only one on the market right now. And it was sold previously for $600 in poor condition. So replaced electronics. But now it's relisted again as fair. Is it the same person? We got Howie's House of Hollow Bodies. So I think what this is a classic case of somebody's purchased this for resale and it's shipping to them, but they've relisted it already with the original seller's photos. Or they just thought the seller took good photos, so they just left them as is. You run into dealers like that sometimes. What else do we got going on tonight? Just in case you're wondering, it's about 11:28. Sometimes you can find some good deals late at night. Other times, not so much. Ooh. You know, if you want a really cool vintage archtop guitar, semi-hollow type stuff, or full hollow body, you can find great deals on the 50s and 60s eras one, because it's the PAFs in these things that make them crazily valuable, not necessarily the husk. I've been tempted quite a few times by something like this, because to me, the guitar is what makes that guitar so cool. I mean, if it's got replaced pickups, yeah, I would be sad, but I mean, if I can save a bunch of money and get a cool guitar like this, I'd be willing to do it. So it looks like this would make somebody a nice little player's guitar of a Barney Kessel. But it looks like we do have a crack, but you know, $1,600. Do you buy a used Les Paul Standard or this and throw some cool stuff in it? That's up to you. I have not reviewed a Diablo, but I did just buy a new SG that has that kind of body shape, but we'll see if I can get the original Diablo. But what's going on here? I like this seller. He's honest. So he says, I want $1,000 plus 69 shipping, but his description, bottom line, 800. Just listed at 800 then. But what intrigues me about this is it looks like they've added an additional knob. So that tells me that everything else has likely just been replaced. So somebody's just kind of converted this into a squished Les Paul. It's a 1976. Yeah, I don't think I would pay $800 for that, but it is a nice one that has the ebony fretboard. That's kind of a hard option to find, so you might like that. But now let's run through what I found earlier today. I have not actually looked at these listings. I just opened up a tab for them because I wanted to look at them later. So this is a 56 Les Paul Black Beauty. Looks like we got a lot of wear on this one. A replaced pot and output jack. Is this the Oscar one again? Or Hugo? No, okay. This one's just cheap because the finish has been worn off the neck. This, you know, if you're a player, that doesn't really matter because it's going to feel nice to play like that. But, you know, for someone like me that's kind of like a semi-collector at the same time, I don't want that feature. But this thing, I bet it's quite the player. Looks like we got our original waffle backs on there. Even with the flat style screws. That shadow's playing tricks on me. It almost looks like half the headstock was snapped off of it. Yeah, this one is definitely a player, but I think like in clean condition, these things are what, 20 to like 26,000? Again, I don't do true vintage dealing, so I'm not the best person to ask on that. I can look it up for you, but I don't know it off the top of my head. But I'll let that for someone else. And I thought this one was interesting. So this is a 2012 Gibson R9. But it's got a quilt top. And I do want to say, good job, Reverb. Tonight the site's working for me, but it seems to be kind of hit or miss as far as the lag goes. But to me, this kind of looks like a Class 5, but you've got the ABR1 bridge, all the other historic specs, except for the weird finish and the quilty top to it. But look at this headstock. Gibson does not do this very often, but it's actually a quilted, slightly bluish hue to match the body. That's kind of a cool touch. Not necessarily historic spec, but look at that price tag. $8,000 brand new. I don't understand that at all. Maybe if the back also had some quilting and the sides of it as well. But nope, that's just an interesting 59 reissue quilt top. And speaking of quilt tops, this one really struck me. It's a 1985 Prehistoric reissue. but I don't think I've ever seen a Prehistoric with a quilt top. Like, you get the Heritage 80 and the Elites that sometimes have the quilt tops, but as far as just the Prehistoric reissues, I think this is a first for me. It's kind of an unmatched top, but I kind of dig that at the same time. It really reminds me of the Heritage series guitars. But that is a nice top. But if you're wondering why this one's so cheap, it's got a lot of wear. The headstock's been dinged in. Looks like you got some light scratches on the back here. The serial number seems to be slightly rubbed. Not the biggest of a deal because you can still tell it's 50166, so I don't think it was ever stolen. But buckle worming, a little bit of finish wear along the edges of the neck. If it was just that and this, I probably would have made an offer. But it's this part that kind of scares me away. But binding cracks, that's typical. Don't worry about that. Looks like somebody used a heavy pick, maybe even a metal one. You might be able to buff those out to not look as bad. But everything else, I mean, I think they have this very competitively priced if you need a player. It looks like they're also open to offers. And once again, it was just listed 3 hours ago. Well, that's probably the old thing. Let's refresh the page. 10 hours ago. There we go. Yeah, I see that selling relatively quickly. I'll put a link to that one in the description. And our next one here is one I've been looking for, kind of similar to that bass that we were talking about. This is the very last SG Junior that was ever made. The single 1P90 version of that series. What are they calling this? The SG-100, but it's like a variant of it. So instead of that single coil that not everybody likes, this one has the P90. But what I really like about this one is it is complete. It's got everything. It seems to be in good shape. And what I mean by complete is it still has the cover and it's still embossed with Gibson. You've got the embossing of the P90 on that. This is a fantastic example. Most of these things are super beat up. I might not love these guitars, but this is the one I've been wanting to document. Now, as a dealer, I would be wanting to advertise this at about $14.99. I think that's about the top value, and I could expect to sell it around $13 to $14. So what does this guy want for this spectacular example? $18.95. Darn it. You're going to have to pay for a nice example, so I won't be able to touch this one, unfortunately. But if you're a collector looking for this particular model, which you very well might be, pay the man his price. I think he can definitely get that with enough time. I'll add it to my watch list just in case the price comes down, because that is a nice one. Oh, yeah. This one freaked me out because I was looking at that 54 Custom and then I saw this. So Les Paul Access Custom Shop Limited Edition Luminous Red Rich Light. So it's a 2017 custom shop, but it's a cool blend of vintage and ultra modern. So you've got the humbucker in the bridge with a Floyd Rose decked out in gold, but you have like the 70s style vintage witch hat knobs. But take a look at this, a 50s style staple pickup. I don't think I have ever seen a staple pickup paired with a Floyd Rose. It's also kind of got the Widow series going on with it's just all red, including the binding. This is a very striking guitar. It doesn't even look like you have inlays on it. But red headstock, you got the locking nut there, that's also gold. I only wish this seller had more photos. It almost looks like it maybe, just maybe, would have the slightly smaller body, and maybe, judging based on this, it could have the access heel cutaway. This is just a freaky guitar. How much do they want for it? Well, it's considered brand new, but it's 2017 and has rich light, so you might be able to talk them down. Oh, Squealing Pig guitars. I've actually bought something from them. It was a Buckethead Studio. I mean, to be honest, that one's kind of deserving of a wiring all in itself. So maybe I could reach out to him and get like a playing sample and a bunch of additional photos, maybe even some video materials. I might do that. And then this one, wow. For a 25th, 50th anniversary, it can be hard to find one that has a nice top like this one. So this dealer's definitely found something spectacular, but he also has it out in the sunlight. It's got replaced knobs, so that's kind of throwing me a little bit. It should have the speed knobs, but that's just a beautiful top here. What's the rest of it look like? That's the other thing when you're trying to collect the nicest 2550. It might have a nice top, but does it have a nice neck? So is this the total package? Well, it looks like it's got decent flame, but yeah, do you guys see that back? That's a nice one-piece back. That's got a lot of nice wood grain to it. Fantastic example. Looks like it's a 79. The neck leaves me just wanting a little bit more. But since everything else is perfectly checked off, if you are looking for the almost perfect 2550, I think this one's got you. It would only cost you about $100 to $150 to replace the knobs to original ones. But at $6,000, you're going to pay for that good one. And if I remember correctly, this guy recently listed a wine red one as well. He must have got it from the same guy that liked those style knobs. Wine red is a hard color to find, but I did get one and I was able to document it. The only color of 2550 that I haven't documented on the channel is black. Those things are just impossible to find. There's been a few wine reds to show up every now and then, but black is the one that has evaded me so far. But seeing as all these 2550 reviews have been in like my old decrepit style of review and demos, I'm definitely looking forward to re-documenting it with a black one, even though you don't get to see the flame tops. And the last one I want to look at today is a custom shop TAC Matsumoto Firebird. Why I clicked on this one is that seemed relatively cheap for a Matsumoto signature guitar. So $3,099, but it's also coming from China. Wow. But this is just kind of interesting. It reminds me of the Slash Firebird, but it only has 3 knobs. It's got a, looks like an ABR1 bridge with tailpiece, Les Paul style selector switch right there. That's really goofy. I didn't realize that until just right now. And TAC's whole thing is the abalone inlay on the fretboard. Sometimes I think it looks good, sometimes I don't. When it comes to his signature guitars, I just expect it. But he's not as big here in the US, so you probably don't even know who I'm talking about, but I've talked about him in a few other videos. And I think when I looked it up, like these were brand new, like 35-ish. So I'll probably have to pass on this one, but that was getting really close. If I remember correctly, I think these might actually be slightly smaller Firebirds as well, because somebody was trying to sell a case to one of these. Let's see if I can find that. Yeah, here it is. There's a guy selling the TAC Matsumoto Firebird case for $50 and $20 shipping from a reputable dealer. Seems like a steal, right? That's what I was thinking. I could buy that probably sell for what, $250 to somebody who needs it, but it says it will not fit a standard Firebird model. So they either had multiple ones or this was sold and then returned to them because it didn't fit their Firebird. So I hope you troglodytes enjoyed hunting for Gibson guitars with me tonight. I will see you tomorrow for a review on the HM Strat in white. Take care.